leadership based on a title.
We create the workplaces for the employees to be in a safe workplace.
Just because I've given you compensation doesn't mean you go home and you're fine, because money does not fix the world.
I've learned that getting from A to B is not usually my way of doing it. If I don't know, it's okay.
But a defining moment of success in your career.
Definitely. This is what I was born for, right?
I have a voice at the table as much as everybody else.
This is what we've done to get to what we say. I always knew this wasn't everything what I wanted in life.
Lo and behold, the medical profession shows me flames.
I'm sure everyone else is okay than ourselves.
I strive for balance.
Share it along. Hello, everybody, and a warm welcome to this new amazing podcast that we're hosting for you today. Brought to you by RMA, Rand Mutual Assurance, a company that prioritizes the safety and well-being of so many workers in South Africa. But get this, they don't just do this in terms of making sure that they're adequately taken care of financially and from an emotional point of view. They have phenomenal leaders who are at the front line of making sure that the targets, objectives of the company are fulfilled, but more so that the safety and well-being of workers in South Africa is a priority, and a priority that is pursued with passion, fulfillment, and of course, key leaders within the organization that follow through with this mandate. My name is Gugulethu Mfuphi, and I'm excited to have my esteemed guests with us here today. It's going to be a phenomenal conversation over the next few minutes, and of course, we want to hear your feedback as we get going. I'm excited to introduce our speakers for this particular podcast series, and this conversation is largely centered on She Defines, how the women at RMA in leadership are defining their role, their success, and most importantly, the pivotal moments that have shaped their careers and the lives of others. So ladies, hello and welcome. I'm excited to have you all with us. But before we get into the conversation, let me tell the people who you are, because all of you come with credible experience, work ethic that is, of course, highly respected, and most importantly, leadership capacity that actually demonstrates the purpose that you fulfill, not only in the organization, but also in your lives. I'll start to my left-hand side. Well, the other left being the right. And that is Selina Lange, who is an actuarial manager at RMA. Great to have you.
Thank you.
We also have Dr. Jessica Hutchins, who is the head of prevention of RMA. Let's not forget Dr. Tryphene Zulu, who's the head of healthcare operations at RMA. And of course, to the furthest on my left-hand side is Dr. Miranda Moloto, head of rehabilitation. Ladies, thank you so much for joining me for this conversation.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
I'm excited, and as you would have noticed, I obviously started with a lot of your titles and giving some context around the role you serve within the organization, but I really want us to journey in reflecting on the role and function you serve within the business and how that's really shaped, how you show up within the workplace. And maybe let's start with yourself here, Tryphene. Your title is a very interesting one for those who might not be familiar with what you do as head of healthcare operations. Maybe give us some perspective, what you do, how you do it, how everyone else ties into the ecosystem to make it happen.
That's an interesting question to start with. So I'm the head of healthcare operations, and I'm responsible for, on the one side is the healthcare infrastructure, and on the other side is positioning us as a leading specialist occupational healthcare administrator. So on the healthcare infrastructure side, in keeping with our mission and our mandate to look after our heroes, who are the workers, I'm responsible for making sure that we've got the infrastructure, subacute healthcare hospitals that look after our injured workers, to make sure that we can fulfill the mandate of early return to work through effective rehabilitation options that we offer there. And then on the occupational healthcare side, just making sure that what we do is in keeping with what you can call a world-class specialist occupational healthcare administrator.
Got you. And I think that's important. You look after the infrastructure, how it operates, but most importantly, how it aligns with what you do, Jess, right? From your point of view as a head of prevention, you're actually there to make sure that, hold on, before you actually need any further assistance from Tryphene and her team, we actually try to make sure that there's not just a level of compliance, but a level of protection of workers within the healthcare space.
Yeah.
Elaborate on that further.
So 100%, we would like to prevent the injuries and occupational diseases before they become something that you claim for compensation or rehabilitation. So we have a fundamental role ensuring that our everyday heroes go home to their families in a safe way and also come back to work in a safe way. So yeah, a lot of pressure in terms of ensuring that we create the workplaces for the employees to be in a safe workplace. and then from a wellness perspective, that they are also fit and healthy to do their jobs.
Take us further into that, because some of us, when we think wellness, right, in the workplace, we think yoga, a free water bottle and an apple. But the truth is, you actually have a background in the study of ergonomics, right, which takes us deeper into actually understanding the relationship we have with our workplace environment.
Yeah, so I think for me, the part that I always bring back is understanding that as human beings, we interact within a system. There's not an isolated place that we live or go to work. So for me, it's understanding deeper than just your physical well-being, but also your emotional well-being, your mental well-being, and also what we sort of term these days psychosocial well-being. So you may be okay, but you come to work and you've got poor leadership, or the culture at work is terrible. How does that make you feel in terms of whether you're valued as an employee?
Yeah.
And then further, then how does it contribute to accidents? So wellness is more than just ensuring that you've got a yoga mat and a water bottle. It's much, much deeper, and I think something that every single human being feels these days, some form of psychological stress.
100%, especially within the sectors and industries that you take care of, right? Largely within construction as well as mining, where we are well aware that individuals are exposed to heightened levels of not only mental health concerns, but physical danger as well in terms of their work. Miranda, this is where you come in. Selena, I won't keep you quiet for too long, so don't worry, I'm coming. Miranda, this is where you come in terms of rehabilitation, right? So yourself and Jess perhaps sit on such opposite ends of the spectrum, but they both so critical. You come in at the rehabilitation part where perhaps there's been an accident, individuals have had some tragic accidents happen to them, but because the support that's offered by RMA actually comes in to say, hold on, we can get you back into an ecosystem that is positive for you.
Absolutely. So we call ourselves twins with Jess. When the prevention program hasn't worked well, or it doesn't even exist with some employers, they end up in rehabilitation. Well, they end up at an acute hospital, and then they end up at a subacute rehabilitation hospital.
Subacute, for those who don't know?
Subacute means you don't need the doctor as much as you did. There is no blood as such, and you don't need life support. Okay. So you are further down the healing journey of your
trying to make sure here, because there's a number of doctorates and PhDs and in actual areas, you know, so I'm trying to keep up.
Administration So rehabilitation and reintegration is so critical. You know, we've spent all of our 130 years administering claims and compensating. But just because I've given you compensation doesn't mean you go home and you're fine, because money does not fix the world, doesn't fix your social issues. Reintegration takes care of that. So what it means is we make sure that you get home, you fully reintegrate into the family reintegrates with your life-changing injury that you've had, and wherever possible, because it is possible to be on a wheelchair and get back to economic participation. That's exactly what we do for you. And if it means reorganizing your career, you were a miner, we make you a farmer, absolutely, let's go that way. And we've done several of that.
100%. Yeah. I do want us to get into some of those examples in just a moment, but what I love about all of the spaces within the business that you represent is not only are you females, but you all have a very clear mandate that actually works interoperably. You all speak and feed into the different roles that you fulfill. And this makes me come to you, Selena, because you're essentially the numbers girl. Whenever I think of actuaries, I think you must do so much analysis in terms of risk, outcomes, and how it is that from a prevention point of view, you put the measures in place to offer support. When it comes to the healthcare operations, that the necessary support is also provided there, and even from a rehabilitation point of view. So do you spend all your time looking at an Excel spreadsheet, or is it more than that?
So first of all, thanks for the lovely introduction. It's so nice to be here. That I think I like how you went into the different sequence of the different ladies. So what I do generally is that I use my rear mirror to look at the past. What has happened? What has Jessica done?
Yeah.
And how's it feeding into the numbers? So to your answer, yes. To your question, yes. I had to look at the spreadsheet and analyze what Jessica has done and how is that changing claims? How is it changing sort of like frequency of claims? And also with Miranda, how many more days are guys staying ill at home versus what they were in the past? And then given that, say that, okay, going forward, maybe try this extra, or maybe this is actually not working. So actually quantifying all the different things they're doing, which are sometimes would be seen as, soft things, but in the end, they feed into the overall picture of what we need to do going forward.
Yeah, 100%. You actually then sit at the forefront of making sure that you live by part of the ethos of the business, which is safeguarding everyday heroes, right? Understanding what those risks are.
Yeah.
I want us to deep dive into your role as a leader. And I don't want to talk about you as a female leader, because the truth is a leader regardless of gender. And maybe let's talk about that, especially just in terms of the capabilities and the lessons and learnings you've experienced within your leadership journey that have, shaped how you not only approach the technical analysis, but also the human factor in recognizing that the impact of your work touches people's lives and their families.
Yeah, sure. Wow, thanks for the question. I think number one, as a leader, I've learned to listen. I've learned that getting from A to B is not usually my way of doing it. Actuaries are quite interesting people. They're very analytical, very problem-solving individuals.
I was about to say, there's like linear progress. So
so they're very creative. So it's always interesting that you can have the same sort of question, but how different individuals within the same sort of space will get to the answer is quite different. So as a leader, I've learned that I can't always give you the answer. I can give you what the scenario is and what I want at the end. But having to learn to enable others to go from A to Z is quite important, and having to let go as a leader, and also just trusting other people is quite important. So if anything, enabling is a huge part of how I work as a leader, knowing that everyone comes with their own little, pinch of salt, pinch of sugar, etc. And I need to let that grow to whatever it needs to be. And in the end, as long as we get to the cross line, that's okay.
Got you.
Yeah, so
100%. Miranda, you were agreeing earlier on together with yourself, Trav, so I'm quite keen to get your thoughts. And Miranda, more specifically from you, because you work in a space where people are often at their most vulnerable, right? And weakest, and perhaps even, disorientated by the experiences that they might have gone through. And you need to be a leader who offers not only a sense of empathy and understanding, but of hope, of optimism, and of positive outcomes. So how have you, experienced this? Are there pivotal moments that have shaped and influenced how you show up as a leader in this space?
Totally. So interestingly, Gugu, I did an MSHB, right, a medical degree, and did not anticipate that I would end up heading up a rehabilitation and making sure that rehabilitation, and people have got lots of trust with medical doctors, right?
Oh yeah.
They put their hands in the doctor's hands, and what they don't realize is that rehabilitation actually is not taught in that way in medical degrees, right? So you learn it along the way, because you end up with a person that is vulnerable and injured. I spent 22 years in occupational medicine where they would get injured, and I know this guy used to be an artisan at this particular place, and he can't go back to that job because the plant is so dangerous for him. But he still has a mind and two legs and two arms, and the brain still works. But we have no way to put them, or we have not thought of ways to do it. So I spent most of my days with my head on my head and fighting with employers, right? Sure. And I end up full circle. I'm on the side of compensation and doing rehabilitation. So it is such a healing place for me. And I have learned rehabilitation actually from my team. So she was talking about leadership, letting it be what it is. I've learned to trust, because I work with rehabilitation healthcare providers in my team. My case managers come from physio, OT, social work, and lo and behold, who got taught. So I've had to lead a team that I've had to learn from. So that's how it's
I find this so refreshing,
Amazing.
right? And I think there's so much to learn here, not only in terms of allowing leadership to flow and to ebb and to really respond to the circumstance as it needs you to, but also learning from others. Because when I put together my research for this conversation, ladies, I must tell you, I was taken aback. I was like, I think I'm underqualified. Because not only do we have someone here from the financial services, mathematician, and actuarial sciences, that's very technical. You yourself, Julie, come from a background of ergonomics. You have worked in a wide variety of industry as well, not only in academia, for state-owned entities, now back in the private sector. At one point, you were an entrepreneur. Trifine, you started off as a pharmacist at some point in a public hospital, qualified with 3 master's degrees, went on to do a PhD, worked as a consultant at some point for WHO, the World Health Organization, and now you're here in this capacity again as a leader. Miranda, I don't even want to start with you. You told me a moment ago that you got your doctorate back when you were 22, and you've been a medical professional ever since. Since then as well, constantly evolving within your academic qualifications. And I think this is important, right? Because number one, we celebrate your accolades and achievements, ladies.
Thank you.
I think that should not be downplayed.
Thank you.
But what you've all taught us here so far is that the title, the label, the academic qualification can get you there, but it doesn't make you as a leader. I'm so keen just to hear your reflections on this, and maybe Trifine, we can start with you. From pharmacist to healthcare professional who's worked as a consultant in global industries, and yourself, Jess, you have quite a story to tell.
Yeah, I think for me personally, on the academic front, it's more a feeling that you are born into this world to learn and give. And I've decided for myself that the learning part, I'm not afraid of. If there's something I want to know, I will go out and learn about it. And it has helped me in shaping my career to where I am today. But then the flip side is being comfortable with not knowing everything as a leader. I think for me that's the most important thing. If I don't know, it's okay. But I've got a team. That's why you have a team. And you don't bring people that look and behave and think like you. It's very important to have a diverse team, because from there you can learn a lot from them. And I think that has shaped a lot of how I lead, how I build teams, and how I learn and work with them. Because for me it's so important. The idea is not to know the answer, is to know how and where to get it. For me, that's the most important thing.
I think that's also for me, having done my PhD was, you kind of have different ideas. That's why you do a hypothesis and, how to find the answers.
Yes.
It's not just Googling, it's getting into research and getting in depth. But just going back to the earlier part, I'm not one for titles, and I've never been, but one of the reasons, and this might sound contradictory, why I did my PhD was because having been in a male-dominated environment, in particular dealing with, production managers, you've got different cultural backgrounds, and often, you might have the right answer, but you're not heard. And it's funny when you come back and you now have the title doctor, that sometimes you get that respect.
So it does shift perception.
It does definitely, wrongly or rightly, but I think for me it definitely was a personal reason for why I did my PhD, was to say, I have a voice at the table as much as everybody else, but to be heard, sometimes the title does have a role to play.
Selena, your thoughts?
That is interesting for me to hear. I think in light of where I find myself, I'm in a very male, industry, just to put it out there. I work with men every day. I had a Friday, a board meeting. It was just men everywhere.
In 2025.
In 2025. And I think it has taught me to know my story. I think similar to what she said, know your story, know you need to learn to get you there, and being okay with that, But I've had to raise my voice a little higher as well, because I'm like, I know what I'm talking about. Okay, I'm not just trying to, just to say something for the sake of saying something. And it's challenging, but it's something worth doing every single day, for so many other reasons that I can't name today. But I think it's worth it, being self-aware, know where you're going, and knowing that whatever you're saying today, in terms of what you've checked and researched, where it's feeding into. Because I'm working with on a nice project right now for preventions, and essentially analyzing for the past whatever years what she's done and the impact of that. You know, it's tough conversations because, you know, numbers tell you one thing and then whatever else. But it's important to have those conversations, you know, and table them at the right, I guess, tables, so that when big decisions are made, it's offer, you know, this is what we've done to get to what we're saying, sort of thing. But yeah, it's an interesting time to be a woman, if anything.
Right.
That keep, you know, chanting on.
Right?
I like that. I like that. I was going to say, I like your perspective on different ends of the PhDs. Being a medical doctor is both a curse and a blessing. You walk into rooms and people go, "Oh, doc." Yeah.
So if I had to sneeze right now or have some kind of complication, you're not on my point of call.
Just don't sneeze, because very quickly, when I was 24 and I was in general practice, I knew that I hated it.
Really?
And
As in the profession?
As I hated being in front of patients. I am not your family doctor. I'm not your typical family doctor. And it was so hard telling people that I do not want sick patients. I really do not enjoy that part of science. And there were not enough women in positions of things that I'm doing and things that I've done with my MPCHB.
So tell us what you did after that, because this is intriguing, right? You're into the profession, and naturally the assumption is that you want to be around sick
because
people.
I went to university when I was 17 and I passed. Right?
Yeah.
You pass, and if you study, and I'm a nerd, I pass.
Well,
I
we like
grew up
that.
as a nerd. Like, anytime you find me, I've got Jughead, or I've got a book,
Yeah.
or I'm a nerd, right? So I passed, and then lo and behold, the medical profession shows me flames when I'm a houseman, and I'm just like, God, I don't want to be on call. Really, I do not want to be treating a patient, but what is there that needs to be done? And no one was Miranda at the time, or I couldn't find Black women to represent what I'm looking for, and I didn't even know what I didn't know.
Got you.
So I end up in private practice, it's fine, and I stayed for exactly 22 months. And I was being dragged to the 22 months because within 6 months I knew I shouldn't be in general
Miranda,
practice.
there's a lesson here. And I think it's important, right, that you can be on the right track, you can be fulfilling your purpose, you can be
Absolutely.
doing what you really love, but you need to have a level of self-awareness to actually understand how else you can use your
Totally.
purpose in a different light.
Totally.
And I think for me also is giving yourself the options. I always say the first degree is just your landing
Entry.
your entry. After that, you can be anything under the sun. Nothing confines you to being a doctor forever. And I've seen that. I started with pharmacy, and I enjoyed it. I mean, I enjoyed dealing with patients at Bara. You know, making sure that there's supplies, medical supplies. You serve up to the last patient. You know, you don't close the doors until the last granny is gone home. But I always knew this wasn't everything to what I wanted in life. And I remember sitting in a we call it the therapeutics committee at Bara, where we decide whether we can get new medicines onto the formulary. But it just wasn't a way of deciding, if we're getting this new thing, what are we dropping? And my curiosity at the time was, okay, there must be something more one needs to learn to be able to make these decisions and set priorities. And I went to UCT, did my health economics, and I never looked back.
Right.
I'm like, wow, there's a different way of thinking about healthcare. There's a different way of thinking about it. It's not just a patient in front of you, but it's the entire population. How do you decide on resource allocation? And that's how I ended up with the WHO work and the NHI work, et cetera, et cetera.
Got you.
And then when I'm working now in the corporate world, now I moved to the corporate world, and I'm working with actuaries. I'm working with different skill sets, and it forces you at that point to lead yourself, but then to lead others towards a purpose, a common purpose. And it's not so much whether you're a doctor or a pharmacist, or you're just part of a team trying to make sure that you spend funds properly. You can manage risk, you can manage utilization of benefits. I ended up thinking, okay, let me do actuarial science. So for me, it was more contextual. I'm here and I'm thinking, okay, I need to solve for this. What is my knowledge gap? I go and do it. I wasn't married to being a pharmacist. I was like, I can do anything. as long as I have the capability intellectually, I can do it.
Exactly.
And for me, that has been my experience.
That's exactly what has happened with my career. So I ended up at a factory. It was a paper and packaging factory.
Wow, from people to paper and packaging.
Absolutely. And this doctor had gone on leave, and he says, come and hold the fort. And they used to be called factory doctors at the time. And Tuesday mornings before I go to practice, and I walk in there, and they gave me safety boots and a hard hat. And I was like, that's it. Medicine combined with process engineering. And they're getting occupational asthma from this dust. Oh, light bulb moment. That's how I ended up in occupational medicine, because science crosses engineering in a particular way, and it causes them to get ill. They sit on this stool, and they have got repetitive strain to their back, and they end up at the clinic. Then medicine started making sense, and I'm like, so how do I get to be a factory doctor? And then I ended up doing the occupational medicine.
Yes.
But while you do, now I have to make decisions about whether we are buying this earbud or a Variphone, and it's health systems. How do we buy an earbud or earplug or a Variphone, which is more expensive?
So back to the solutions. You might not know the answer, but you know how to get there.
That's exactly so. That's how I ended up with a master's in health systems. And I was just like, MBCHB is so delightful, because you can do anything with it. It's amble, it's malleable, and whatever. Exactly what Trifid is saying.
Right.
It is, I need this. I don't know how to convince my manager to do it. Then I need to study for it, because in corporates, things are presented differently. You know, when you are a doctor, you can do the routine.
Yeah.
You can do the everyday, and you get better and better at diagnosing earlier and earlier. But when you are health systems managing now, behind the scenes, how did you get to that? Then you need to study for it. That's
100%.
how it's happened.
There's so many nuggets that are being shared here so far, and I'm hoping that the interaction will continue on the page with the feedback as well, because ultimately what you've helped us understand is that there's a journey to becoming who you are and the purpose you want to fulfill as a leader. Definitely get the technical training. Make sure that you upskill yourself to know the intricacies of the field that you'd like to specialize in, but you're not locked into it. Ultimately, there are various ways of making sure that you align yourself to a bigger purpose or fulfillment, or even just expanding your horizons by tapping into new sectors and industries. What really stands out for me here is the lessons that I hope that everyone who's watching can take away in terms of skills, especially young women who might be entering spaces and uncertain about how to journey going forward.
And it's okay if you go down different paths that you intended. I mean, you know, half of us probably sitting here now looking back wouldn't have thought we'd be in these positions or type of industries, and it's okay.
Exactly.
Absolutely not.
100%. I do want to talk about the ecosystem within which you do it, right? Because it's one thing to have the skills, the training, the self-awareness, the opportunity to step into a different environment, but we can't do it alone. And this is where I'm keen just to talk about, you know, some of the support systems and structures you've had, whether it's peer mentorship, support, guidance, and even something I'm aware of called Soul Sisters that you have at RMA. You guys have
There's
a little
our
wonderful
chief
soul
sister.
system that's going on.
Chief soul sister over there. You want to start, Miranda?
So, Chief Soul Sister, how does this work? What's it about? How successful has it been?
So I keep teaching everyone my title, and they just...
Butcher
they
it.
botch it all the time. Anyway, so at RMA, because we're building a particular culture, did you know that we are 62% female?
Oh, wow.
At RMA, we are.
We learn something new every day.
Part of what we build as a hero experience, and our hero experience is defined by our customers, how they experience us, our employees, how they experience us. That equals to our hero experience. But being mentored sometimes can be from above. Being mentored, I told you, my rehabilitation journey has been mentored by my team, right?
Yes.
But being mentored also is amongst peers. So we've got a cultural theme that is called the Soul Sister theme, that is driven by our group EXCO females, and we are carried by our human capital executive, Gabby. So it is really about getting together as a village to say, how are you doing? You know, just sometimes you just need, how are you doing? And somebody to say, how are you doing? I can tell Jess from afar when she's having a bad day. And just
You just did that now. There was like a little wink, like, yeah, you've got me.
Usually it's the other way around. She comes for a hug.
She
and
does.
then,
No,
she's
we
fine.
do. We do. I go downstairs to go to the corner office and I'm just like, Jess,
Need a hug.
it's bad. It's bad. So sometimes it is about that. And then we huddle together, maybe to solve some issues. We can huddle together with Trifie, and it's like, this I've never seen in my life. So that's what the Soul Sister tribe is. We just had a hike on Saturday together because we do hard things together. We also do fun things together. So that's what the Soul Sister is about, because you have to build the culture. You have to be involved in creating the culture that you're looking for. When you realize that you are the change that you're looking for, you get in there.
100%.
Yeah, you put
what I
together
appreciate,
tribes.
it ties into the theme as well. All of you have commented on making sure that you prioritize your heroes, which are the workers at the end of the day whose lives you prioritize, but you're also taking care of each other. And given that, you know, there's an emotional connection, there's psychological safety that's created, there's social engagement that's happening outside of the workplace. What I'm learning is that you see the full person beyond the title. And I'm quite keen to understand, you know, how that has fueled you, Jess, maybe yourself as well, Selena. You know, how has it helped you show up differently within the workplace? And maybe not you, but, you know, observations of other colleagues and counterparts you've seen.
Yeah, I think for me, by nature of what I do, it's always making sure that the workers have a safe place to work. So sometimes I think it's more about making sure everyone else is okay than ourselves. But I think for me, that's also something that I always hold true to myself, is the people that I'm close to physically from work, that they're okay, because you're only as strong as your team, right? So if they're not feeling great or they're losing it a little bit, you're the one as the leader that has to show up and make sure that they're okay, because otherwise you flounder. So for me, it's just, you know, always making sure that everyone is okay, they're comfortable, they have the resources, and ultimately making sure people are empowered in their positions, because one day you may not be there and they need to have been equipped with the skills, with the ability to be exposed to situations that maybe by mere fact that their title or their grade doesn't allow them, but there has to be that opportunity. So yeah, we, I think, need to make sure that we're okay. The biggest question Miranda mentioned earlier is, how are you? And that question, you know, people say, oh, I'm fine, thanks, and you go off. But if you took a moment just to listen to that, how powerful that question is, and taking those minutes to actually answer it and go, actually, no, sometimes I'm not okay.
Right.
I bet you if we answered, no, I'm not okay, would people maybe stop and go, oh, you just didn't just say I'm fine, thanks. So yeah.
Exactly. And then finding ways to see if you can play an influence in actually assisting, right? And sometimes it's holding space, sometimes it's actually offering guidance or navigating that journey with someone. What I'm hearing from this as well is that it's really selfless leadership. And I want us to touch on this point before we do get into our concluding remarks. Is leadership based on a title? And I look in a particular direction because I know that's the response she gave me. I'll give you the background story. She said to me, I'm not Dr. Muloto, call me Miranda.
I heard her.
But I want to get your points in a moment. Trifie, your thoughts, leadership based on a title? And I think there's an important lesson here, men or women, but anyone really in a leadership position, to understand that you still need to be a holistic individual, regardless of whether the title comes or goes.
So for me, I think it's two ways. There are instances where it's based on a title. As a leader, there's certain expectations that the world around you, your family, society expects of you. So when you have that title, you've got to behave in a way that honors the title. So I think for me that's very important.
Or understanding the responsibility that comes with it.
That comes with the title, because it's not just a title for the title's sake, but it's the responsibility that comes with it. It's how you show up, it's how you lead, how you influence. And I'll give you an example. I remember years ago when I was still with the previous employer, one of my most influential leaders, Dr. Kunigudap, he was the principal office of James.
Okay.
I remember how he would conduct meetings, and he would say, he would behave when there are questions or solutions that are being asked of the group. He would not be the person to go first. He would let everyone else speak. And I think because he understood that as a leader with that title, if you speak first, you silence everyone else around you. And I've kept that lesson for myself. It's very important.
Right.
But then the other side, I said there's two ways. So the one side is, yes, it comes with the title, it comes with responsibilities. But there's also the part where you have to lead yourself. Title or no title, you still have to practice self-leadership. And that means your self-awareness, being aware of the context you're in, the environment you're in. And you shouldn't have to wait for a title for you to be able to lead, because I think for me, wisdom comes from anybody. You don't have to be a leader to be the person that solves things. So for me, it's both ways. Yes, that comes with a title, but also even without a title, we can still lead.
Yeah.
That's my take on it.
What I hope many of us do take away from this conversation, you know, as we reflect and of course just continue to celebrate and respect the accolades and success that many of you here as women representing RMA have achieved, that we also take a moment to understand that much like us, we've also had imposter syndrome. We've had doubts. We've had questionable decisions that we might have taken. We've had moments where we've had to call on others to support us. And I'm quite keen to get your closing remarks as we wrap up with the concluding question from each of you that hopefully you'll dig a little bit deeper from, to share some practical examples that will help us strategize our journeys and our careers in our companies going forward. And that's one that really speaks to, is there a moment that you can think of, Selina, Jess, Trifine, Miranda, that was a moment that assisted you in defining success, a defining moment of success in your career that allowed you to establish the truth in the fact that I'm on the right path, I'm on the right journey, I'm in the right space with the right people. And I perhaps will give you a moment to think and reflect about yours, right? As I reflect on mine, which I think I've just had another one here. So for those of you who don't know, I actually studied to be a chartered accountant.
No way.
Wow.
Never went through with it as I got into, what was I thinking? Well, it's the maths and science theory, right? But because you've shared this, I think it's important that I reflect on how I've actually had another defining moment right now. So studied to be a chartered accountant, got into my honors year, wrapped that up, and then did articles, and I was like, nah. The Excel spreadsheets, I felt like I was scratching eyeballs. But during my time as a student, I actually also worked on the campus radio station. And if you work on a campus radio station, you do a little bit of everything. And in my honors year, this is when a commercial radio station called me to say, hey, we want you on board. And lo and behold, I told my parents I'll just take 6 months off just to figure myself out. That 6 months continues till now. So. But the point is, when I realized that there was a defining moment of success in my career is when working for a financial media publication, I was writing an article around BE schemes and how they were being structured, ESOPs, employee share incentives within big corporates. And whilst we focused on the financial structure and where the ownership went and how the share price was performing, I got calls from ordinary Black South Africans who would actually call and say, I've invested in this company, when am I getting my payout? And if anything, it was a lesson to me that beyond just educating them about the investment scheme, there's actually a deeper need for financial education, because it doesn't work like a stock file. It's not a 6 months or 12-month run, but they actually need to understand the ecosystem of investments. And that's when it hit me that this world of numbers, balances, the cash flow statement, the balance sheet is aligning with the impact on people's lives to actually understand that money does play an influence on their decisions. So, and I've had another moment right here in many of you, just echoing the sentiments that, you know, ensure that you solidify the technical skills and capabilities, get the knowledge, surround yourself with the right people, and be self-aware to understand that you can pivot. So if you see my CV at RMA, don't be surprised.
And we welcome it. Welcome.
So back to the question, and I'm hoping it's one that, you know, many of us will resonate with, and of course it will help us strategize our careers going forward. But a defining moment of success in your career, Selina?
Sure. I would say just peace in it. You know, when you do what you love and you find peace in it, I think to match whatever you guys were looking for, when you find that moment where it makes sense, I'm in the right place, it feels okay, I'm learning, I'm still growing, I'm getting all the things that I need from this. I think that for me it was the biggest thing. My job is tough. I mean, I never know what's coming. But the fact that at the end of the day, what I need, which is learning, which is growth, which is just helping, I get all of those in one day, makes it okay for me and defines the success for me. And still able to take care of my family, and at 5 o'clock be okay to say, guys, cheers, see you tomorrow, and be present at home, I think defines the peace for me. Because life must be balanced, right? You can't, to some extent,
when you can, right?
When you can, and I love balance. I strive for balance, you know. And when I get all those things in line, that's when I know that, I've hit it, and I strive for that
Do you
every
have
day.
the recipe?
Share it along. Don't you have the recipe to see a change?
That's the thing. No, for me, two standout things, pivotal, and I don't necessarily put this in order of preference or importance, but perhaps read it as or listen how you feel. But my PhD was without something I always wanted to do, and when I did it, it was just that catalyst to own your space and to have the confidence. And then I know we've talked a lot about careers, but becoming a mom.
Beautiful.
Sometimes it's not so easy for everyone to be able to click that switch and, but I'm happy mom to a 6-year-old boy.
Stunning.
So, that's something that, as you say, don't quite have the balance part yet, but, is holding that true to yourself and why are you doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
Those are the two standout moments in my life.
100%.
Yeah.
That's so fulfilling as well, looking at the whole picture, as you said, balance you as a whole individual as well as your career. Trifine, have you got the recipe?
Not yet. I'm still searching for it.
Defining moment of success in your career.
But I think mine is actually similar to Jess' story. So I think the one time where I could say, actually enjoy what I'm doing, or I'm glad I'm here, it was during the time when I was working with different people, technical people, WHO, World Bank, academics, when we're drafting the NHI white paper.
Say that again, please, because that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Drafting the NHI white paper.
Yeah, so I was part of
Maybe
the
she's
secretariat
whispering it
that was
for reasons, right?
I was part of the team that was supporting all these brilliant people to put
Yeah.
their ideas together. And at that time, there was a gentleman, the late Dr. Humphrey Zogofai. He says to me, I can see your passion, I can see, how you put your mind to these things. But I think there's a world out there in the private sector where you can work with health insurance. And after we're done with that work, I then moved to the managed care side with the medical aid side, and I've always felt so fulfilled, and it has shaped my journey to RMA today. And that for me, that moment or that project is one of those where I'm like, we're doing something useful, something I believe in terms of health equity, addressing health inequities. But out of that, something else grew out of it. Even my opportunity at the WHO is because one of the guys I was working with during that time said, I think you'd be the right person for this opportunity at the WHO. So I think for me, that project, it was difficult, but what came out of it for me has been something that I really hold fondly in my heart.
Beautiful.
And then the other side is being a mom. I was a young mom. My daughter is graduating in September.
Oh, wow.
It's been such a journey. Parenting is not for the faint-hearted. But walking alongside her on this journey, having been a young mom, but watching this girl become a young woman herself and seeing how she has self-actualized, how she has fought through and is now eventually graduating, it's been the most fulfilling.
Sure.
Right.
And then watching the younger brother also grow to be this individual that is so funny, has such a great sense of humor, but so kind and so generous. I
Right.
think for me, raising these two generous kids has been the most fulfilling part of my journey.
Right?
Yeah.
The beauty of motherhood, like
Yes.
the growth and
you see that come
development of
to
an
life.
individual.
You're like, wow.
You're inviting us to the graduation, right? We're going to be there till late.
Yes, guys, come along, it's happening.
So I think almost each decade of my career has been a defining moment. I just told you the defining moment of being a doctor in a hard hat and boots and walking a plant and understanding how science crosses over medicine and how people get ill in a workplace. And, that led me to working in a steel factory, cosmetic factories, oil and gas, all sorts of things. So occupational medicine makes sense. It's the part of medicine that absolutely makes sense for me rather than the curative side of medicine. And then the next moment that makes sense is incidentally just the crafting of our social insurance strategy. It's been the hardest, the most demanding, the most the most engaging and evoking part of creating this new ecosystem at RMA, going beyond a compensation fund, right?
Yep.
So the social insurer mandate has really defined and redefined. It makes sense why I actually did medicine. So it's not just the one thing, so social insurance.
You might not have the day-to-day impact with the patient anymore, but you're still impacting their lives through your strategy.
And it is a much bigger mandate because this health ecosystem needs to be organized by someone. It's hard. I don't even know how we're going to do it.
It's expensive as well.
It's expensive. It's huge. It's exciting. It's evoking. It's scary. It's a BHAG.
Yeah.
But I'm here for it, and I am almost like definitely. This is what I was born for, right? So it is a very defining moment for me. Sorry, girls, I don't know about defining by motherhood.
It's okay. It's okay.
That's okay. That's why you have the cool aunts.
Yeah.
You come in as backup and then you disappear again over the weekend.
Cheers.
Ladies, this has been so fulfilling. I think more than anything, we've certainly learned the fundamentals that when you are in alignment and, of course, experience defining moments, they don't happen in isolation. And sometimes they can occur on an ongoing basis, as we've learned from Miranda. One key theme is that they can live in terms of both realms and the fullness of who we are as individuals. Our personal goals can align with our professional goals and objectives, and we can make sure that we find a level of partnership that takes place there.
Yeah.
And ultimately, everybody wants a sense of peace, knowing that you're on the right track, on the right path, and of course, meeting the objectives that you've set for yourself. If anything, I've had a fulfilling conversation with all four of you, really helping us fully understand how we celebrate the phenomenal success of the woman at RMA. She Defines has been this particular podcast episode. And if you want to tell us more, do share your comments and your feedback with us. We're more than happy to receive your commentary. And most importantly, continue to interact and share this conversation with so many more women and men around your circle. If we've learned anything from the conversation today, it's definitely that we can all make sure that we define our success in our own way. And more than anything, the women at RMA continue to live according to the mandate and objective of the business by making sure that they safeguard everyday heroes. But even in their own space, as heroes themselves, they're able to recognize, celebrate, and support each other as heroes within the organization. It's been amazing. Thank you so much again to all our ladies and for you joining us. Until next time.